Steam rose from the hot coffee cup in Officer Sarah Martinez's hands as she stepped out of her patrol car. The fog rolled thick through downtown Portland streets, making everything look like a ghost town. She had no idea her life was about to change forever. A ragged voice cut through the silence. "Don't speak, just listen." Sarah's hand moved toward her gun. A homeless man sat against a brick wall, his clothes torn and dirty. His German Shepherd mix stood beside him, every muscle tight, like a spring ready to snap. The dog's eyes weren't on Sarah, though. They stared across the street with pure focus. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Sarah had been a cop for 8 years. She trusted her gut, and right now it screamed danger. But this wasn't coming from the homeless man. It was coming from wherever that dog was looking. Behind the blue car, the man whispered. His voice shook, but his eyes stayed sharp. "He's been watching you for 10 minutes. Sarah's blood ran cold. She glanced at the street without moving her head. Between two parked cars, she caught a glimpse of movement, a shadow that shouldn't be there. The homeless man's dog let out a low growl that made her skin crawl. Animals knew things people missed. This dog knew something bad was about to happen. Sarah pretended to check her radio while scanning the area. There, crouched behind a blue sedan, was a man in dark clothes. He held something in his hand that caught the streetlight. Metal. Sharp metal. Her heart pounded like a drum. The man across the street started moving, using the parked cars as cover. He was getting closer. "How long has he been there?" Sarah whispered. "Since you pulled up," the homeless man replied. His dog's hackles rose higher. "He followed your car. Waited for you to get out. This was bad. Really bad." Sarah was alone, no backup coming, and someone had planned this. But who was this homeless man? Why was he helping her? The stalker made his move. He burst from behind the car, something glinting in his raised hand. Sarah reached for her weapon, but he was too close, too fast. The homeless man moved like lightning. Despite his torn clothes and thin frame, he launched himself forward. His shoulders slammed into the attacker's chest, sending both men crashing to the wet pavement. "Bruno, stay back," the homeless man shouted to his dog. The attacker rolled on top, raising what Sarah could now see was a knife. The blade came down toward the homeless man's chest. Sarah drew her gun, but couldn't get a clear shot with them wrestling on the ground. Bruno barked once, sharp and fierce. The sound echoed off the buildings like a warning bell. Sarah moved closer, weapon ready. "Police! Drop the knife." The attacker ignored her, focused only on the man beneath him. The homeless man caught the attacker's wrist, stopping the knife inches from his throat. His arms shook with effort. "Shoot!" the homeless man gasped. "Don't let him hurt anyone else." But Sarah couldn't risk it. One wrong move, and she might hit the wrong person. Instead, she kicked hard at the attacker's ribs. He grunted and rolled sideways. The homeless man scrambled away, breathing hard. The attacker stumbled to his feet, still gripping the knife. His eyes were wild, dangerous. "Put it down," Sarah commanded, gun aimed at his chest. For a moment, time stopped. Rain began to fall, making the streets slippery and dark. The attacker looked between Sarah and the homeless man, calculating his next move. Bruno growled again, a sound that promised pain if the man didn't listen. The attacker's shoulders sagged. He dropped the knife, and it clattered on the asphalt like broken glass. Sarah moved fast, spinning him around and snapping handcuffs on his wrists. "You're under arrest," she said, but her voice shook slightly. As she radioed for backup, Sarah looked at the homeless man. He sat against the wall again, Bruno pressed against his side. Blood trickled from a cut on his cheek, but his eyes held no fear, only calm. "Why?" Sarah asked. "Why did you help me?" The man scratched Bruno's ears. "Because nobody else would. And because you looked at me like I was still human." Those words hit Sarah harder than any punch. When had she last really looked at homeless people? When had she seen them as anything more than problems to solve or move along? "What's your name?" she asked softly. "Marcus," he replied. "This is Bruno." Sarah nodded. "I am Sarah. Officer Martinez." "I know," Marcus said with a small smile. "Your name's on your badge." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Soon this street would fill with cops, questions, and paperwork. Marcus started to stand, probably planning to disappear before the other officers arrived. "Wait," Sarah said. "I need your statement. You're a witness." Marcus hesitated. "I don't do well with lots of cops." "Then just talk to me," Sarah promised. "Just me." When backup arrived, Sarah kept her word. She took Marcus's statement herself, while other officers processed the scene. The attacker had a record of stalking female police officers. He'd been planning this attack for weeks. Marcus had saved her life. No question about it. As the other cops prepared to leave, Sarah walked back to Marcus. He was gathering up a worn backpack, getting ready to vanish into the night. "Marcus," she called. He turned, Bruno at his side like always. "Thank you," Sarah said. It seemed too small for what he'd done, but it was all she had. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. "You're welcome, Officer Martinez." Then he walked away into the fog, man and dog disappearing like ghosts. Sarah watched until she couldn't see them anymore, knowing her life would never be the same. She had been saved by someone society threw away, someone invisible, someone who risked everything for a stranger who wore a badge. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the knife coming down, saw Marcus throwing himself into danger without thinking twice. She saw his eyes when he said she looked at him like he was still human. How many people like Marcus walk these streets every day? How many heroes hid behind dirty clothes and tired faces? Sarah made a promise to herself as rain drummed against her window. She would find Marcus again. She owed him more than thanks. She owed him the chance to be seen. 3 days passed before Sarah spotted the familiar figure near the Burnside Bridge. Marcus sat on a concrete barrier, sharing a sandwich with Bruno. Even from her patrol car, she could see how thin they both looked. She parked and approached slowly. Bruno's tail wagged once, but Marcus tensed like he might run. "It's okay," Sarah said, holding up a bag from the deli. "Just thought you might be hungry." Marcus stared at the bag, then at her face. "Why are you here, Officer Martinez?" "Sarah," she corrected. "And I'm here because I wanted to say thank you again. Properly this time." She sat on the barrier beside him, leaving space so he wouldn't feel trapped. Bruno sniffed the air, catching the scent of fresh food. "Roast beef and turkey," Sarah said, opening the bag. "And dog treats for Bruno." For the first time, Marcus smiled. Really smiled. He loves turkey. They ate in comfortable silence, watching the river flow beneath them. Sarah had 1,000 questions, but she waited. Trust had to be earned, especially from someone who'd learned to survive by staying invisible. "You don't have to keep checking on me," Marcus said finally. "I'm Fina." Sarah looked at his thin frame, his worn-out shoes, the careful way he saved half his sandwich. "Are you, though?" Marcus met her eyes. "I'm alive. That's more than some people get. But what about really living?" Sarah asked gently. "When's the last time you slept somewhere warm? Had a hot shower? Felt safe?" Marcus was quiet for so long Sarah thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I used to teach," he said, "English literature at Portland Community College. Had a little apartment in Hawthorne, a car that ran most of the time, students who actually cared about learning." Sarah waited, sensing there was more. "Then I got called up. National Guard deployment to Afghanistan." Marcus's hands clenched. Came back different. Nightmares, panic attacks. Couldn't focus on anything. My wife tried to help, but I pushed her away. Lost the job, then the apartment, then her. Bruno pressed closer to Marcus's leg, offering comfort without words. Medical bills from trying to get help, Marcus continued. Therapy, medication, hospital stays when things got really bad. Insurance didn't cover enough. Savings disappeared. Then one day, I was living in my car, and the next day, they towed it for unpaid tickets. Sarah felt her chest tighten. What about family? Friends? Marcus shrugged. Hard to ask for help when you can barely get out of bed. Easier to just disappear. But you found Bruno, Sarah observed. Marcus's expression softened as he looked at his dog. Other way around. Found him beaten up behind a gas station, leg broken, ribs showing. Vet bill took my last $100, but I couldn't leave him to die. He saved you too, Sarah said quietly. Every day, Marcus agreed. Gives me a reason to get up, find food, keep moving. Hard to give up when someone depends on you. Sarah understood that feeling. Her job gave her purpose. But what gave Marcus purpose now besides survival? You speak other languages, she said, remembering his file from the incident report. Marcus looked surprised. Spanish, French, some German. Why? We could use that at the station. Lots of people who don't speak English well, scared to talk to police. I'm not a cop, Marcus said quickly. Don't have to be. Just someone who can help people communicate. Marcus shook his head. Look at me, Sarah. Nobody's going to trust a guy like me in a police station. Sarah studied his face. Beneath the beard and weathered skin, she saw intelligence, kindness, strength. I think you're wrong. I think people would trust you because you understand what it's like to need help. A week later, Sarah found Marcus in Pioneer Courthouse Square, Bruno sleeping at his feet. This time she brought hot coffee and real news. There's a missing girl, she said without preamble. 8 years old, been gone for 6 hours. Lucy Chun disappeared during the Saturday market. Marcus sat up straighter. What can I do? Sarah was surprised by his immediate response. No questions about why she was telling him. No hesitation. Just readiness to help. You know these streets better than any of us, Sarah said. Places a scared kid might hide, or where someone might take her. Bruno's head lifted, ears pricked forward. The dog sensed urgency in Sarah's voice. Show me your picture, Marcus said, standing up. Sarah handed him a photo from her phone. Marcus studied it carefully, memorizing every detail. Sweet face. Looked smart but scared. They walked through the market area, Sarah in uniform, Marcus and Bruno beside her. People stared at the unusual trio, but Sarah ignored them. Right now, finding Lucy mattered more than appearances. There, Bruno suddenly alerted, pulling toward a row of food trucks parked for the weekend. He's tracking something, Marcus said, following his dog's lead. They searched around each truck while Sarah radioed their location. Bruno stopped in an old hot dog truck that hadn't opened for business. Lucy, Sarah called out. Lucy, if you're there, we're here to help. A small voice answered from inside the truck. I'm stuck. The door won't open. Sarah tried the handle, but it was jammed tight. Marcus found a crowbar in his backpack and worked at the lock until it popped open. Lucy tumbled out, crying and shaking. She threw her arms around Sarah's legs, holding on tight. It's okay, Sarah soothed. You're safe now. How did you get in there? I was scared, Lucy sobbed. All the people and noise. I saw the truck door was open and went inside to hide. Then it got dark and the door wouldn't open and nobody could hear me calling. Sarah looked at Marcus over Lucy's head. If they hadn't found her before nightfall, Lucy could have died from cold or panic. This man and his dog found you, Sarah told Lucy gently. They're heroes. Lucy looked at Marcus with wide eyes. To her, he probably looked scary with his rough clothes and beard. But then Bruno stepped forward and gently licked her hand. Lucy giggled despite her tears. Good dog. His name is Bruno, Marcus said softly. He was lost once too. When Lucy's parents arrived, crying with relief, they tried to thank Marcus. He just stepped back into the crowd, uncomfortable with attention. But Sarah wasn't about to let him disappear this time. She followed him to a quiet spot near the river. 2 rescues in 1 week, she said. That's not coincidence. Marcus sat heavily on a bench, just being in the right place. No, Sarah said firmly. It's who you are. You see things other people miss because you know what it's like to be invisible. She sat beside him, choosing her words carefully. My sergeant wants to meet you. Marcus tensed. Why? Because I told him about tonight. About how you and Bruno found Lucy when 30 cops couldn't. Sarah, I can't. Just think about it. She interrupted gently. You don't have to decide now. But think about it. That night, as Sarah wrote her report, she realized something had changed. Marcus wasn't just someone she'd helped. He wasn't even just someone who'd helped her. He was becoming someone important to her. Someone she looked forward to seeing. Someone whose safety and happiness mattered more than just professional courtesy. The thought scared her a little, but also filled her with hope she hadn't felt in years. Marcus had saved her life that first night. Now maybe she could help save his. Marcus gripped Bruno's leash tighter as sirens wailed through Pioneer Courthouse Square. Sarah's radio crackled with panic. A 6-year-old girl named Emma had vanished during the busy Saturday market. Her mother screamed her name while hundreds of people searched every booth and corner. Sarah felt helpless watching the chaos unfold around her. "She's not here anymore," Marcus said quietly, appearing beside Sarah's patrol car. Bruno's nose twitched in the air, catching something others missed. "Your dog found a scent?" Sarah asked, hope flickering in her voice. Marcus nodded, his weathered face serious. Bruno knows fear. He can smell when someone's trapped. Without waiting for permission, Marcus let Bruno lead them away from the square. The dog pulled them down narrow alleyways and past empty buildings. Other officers followed skeptically behind. Sarah's sergeant muttered complaints about wasting time on a homeless man's hunches. But Sarah trusted Marcus after everything they'd been through together. Bruno stopped suddenly at an old food truck parked behind a closed restaurant. The truck looked abandoned with rust covering its sides. Faint scratching sounds came from inside. Marcus pressed his ear against the metal door. "She's in there," he whispered urgently. Sarah grabbed her radio while Marcus and another officer pried open the stuck door. Emma tumbled out, tears streaming down her dirty face. She'd wandered away from her mother and climbed into the truck to hide during a game. The door had slammed shut, trapping her in darkness for 3 hours. Sarah wrapped the scared child in her jacket while Marcus knelt down to Bruno's level. "Good boy," he said softly. "You saved her." The rescue made headlines across Portland. News cameras surrounded Marcus as he tried to explain how Bruno had tracked the scent trail. "Dogs know things we don't," he said simply. "They see with their noses." Reporters called him the guardian angel of the streets. But Marcus felt uncomfortable with all the attention. He just wanted to help people and keep Bruno safe. Sergeant Williams pulled Sarah aside the next morning. His attitude had completely changed after seeing Marcus find Emma. "That man of yours has special skills," he admitted grudgingly. "Maybe we could use someone like him around here." Sarah's heart jumped with excitement. She'd been hoping for this chance for months. The meeting between Marcus and the sergeant happened in a small conference room. Marcus wore his cleanest clothes and tried to sit still despite his nervousness. Bruno lay quietly at his feet, sensing the importance of the moment. "I hear you speak multiple languages," Sergeant Williams said. Marcus nodded, explaining how he'd learned Spanish, French, Russian, and Mandarin during his college years and military service. "We deal with immigrant families who can't communicate with our officers," the sergeant continued. "They're scared and confused when we show up. Maybe you could help bridge that gap." Marcus felt a spark of purpose he hadn't experienced in years. He could use his skills to help people who felt as invisible as he once did. Sarah watched Marcus's first day at the precinct with mixed emotions. Some officers whispered behind his back about the homeless guy getting special treatment. Others stared at his worn clothes and uncombed hair. But when Marcus helped translate during a domestic violence call, everything changed. The frightened woman finally felt safe enough to explain what her husband had been doing to her. Word spread quickly through Portland's immigrant communities about the man at the police station who understood their languages and treated them with respect. Families started requesting Marcus specifically when they needed help. He listened to their stories with patience and kindness that reminded Sarah why she'd fallen for him in the first place. Marcus's confidence grew with each successful case. He helped reunite lost children with their parents, translated for elderly victims of scams, and even convinced gang members to consider different paths. Bruno became the station's unofficial therapy dog, offering comfort to traumatized witnesses and scared children. The local newspaper ran a feature story about Marcus's transformation from street survivor to community helper. Photos showed him working alongside police officers and translating for grateful families. Marcus felt proud reading about his contributions, but he also worried about losing the quiet anonymity that had protected him for so long. One evening, a city council member visited the precinct specifically to meet Marcus. She'd heard about his work and wanted to discuss expanding his role. "We need more people like you in community outreach," she explained. "Someone who understands what it feels like to be forgotten." Marcus felt overwhelmed by the recognition, but also grateful for the opportunity to make a real difference. Sarah found Marcus sitting outside the station that night, staring at the city lights with Bruno beside him. "You're changing lives," she said softly, sitting down next to him on the concrete steps. Marcus shook his head. "People just needed someone to listen," he replied. "I know what it feels like when nobody sees you." Mayor Johnson handed Marcus a golden medal while cameras flashed around City Hall. The ceremony felt surreal after years of being invisible on Portland streets. Marcus's hands shook as he approached the microphone to speak. Hundreds of people sat in the audience, including many he'd helped over the past months. Sarah beamed with pride from the front row. "I'm not a hero," Marcus began, his voice growing stronger with each word. "I'm just someone who got a second chance when everyone else had given up on me. But look around this city. There are still people sleeping in doorways tonight. Still families, too, scared to ask for help. Don't celebrate me and forget about them." The applause lasted 5 minutes. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes as she watched Marcus deflect praise toward others who needed it more. His humility in the face of recognition showed her exactly why she'd fallen in love with him. After the ceremony, they walked silently through downtown Portland, Bruno trotting happily between them. "Do you ever miss it?" Sarah asked as they passed an alley where Marcus used to sleep. He considered her question carefully before answering. "I miss the simplicity sometimes. When your only worry is finding food and staying warm, everything else seems small." He paused, watching a group of homeless people sharing a meal by a dumpster. "But I don't miss feeling worthless." Their relationship had been growing deeper for months, but neither had spoken about it directly. Sarah felt nervous bringing up feelings with someone who'd survived so much trauma. Marcus worried constantly that she deserved better than a man with his complicated past. They danced around their emotions like teenagers afraid of rejection. The breakthrough came during a quiet dinner at Sarah's apartment. She'd cooked spaghetti while Marcus helped by chopping vegetables and telling Bruno to stop begging for scraps. The domestic scene felt natural and comfortable, like they'd been doing it for years instead of months. "I've been thinking about getting my own place," Marcus said suddenly, setting down his fork. Sarah's heart sank, thinking he wanted distance from her. "The department's been paying me enough to afford rent somewhere small." He looked directly into her eyes. "But I don't want to be alone anymore. These past months with you have been the happiest I've been in years." Sarah reached across the small table and took his weathered hands in hers. "You don't have to be alone," she whispered. "I don't want you to be." They sat in silence for a moment, both understanding that their lives were about to change again. Bruno sensed the emotional shift and rested his head on Marcus's knee. Finding an apartment took 3 weeks of searching. Landlords often changed their minds after meeting Marcus in person, despite his steady income and references from the police department. Sarah wanted to file discrimination complaints, but Marcus preferred to keep looking rather than fight battles that might hurt his fragile new stability. Finally, they found a small studio apartment above a bookstore in southeast Portland. The elderly owner, Mrs. Chun, had read about Marcus in the newspaper and offered him the place immediately. "Everyone deserves a home," she said simply, handing him the keys. Marcus cried that night for the first time since Bruno had found him years earlier. Moving day brought unexpected help from the entire police precinct. Officers who had once whispered about Marcus now carried his few belongings up the narrow stairs. Sarah had quietly organized the effort, knowing Marcus would be too proud to ask for assistance. Even Sergeant Williams showed up with a housewarming gift, a new bed for Bruno. The apartment was tiny, but perfect. Marcus had his own bathroom, a small kitchen, and windows that looked out onto the busy street below. Sarah helped him arrange the donated furniture while Bruno explored every corner of his new home. For the first time in a decade, Marcus had a key to his own front door. Neighbors in the building welcomed Marcus with surprising warmth. Mrs. Chin introduced him to other tenants as the hero who helps people. Children in the building asked to pet Bruno whenever they saw him. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the acceptance after years of being avoided and feared. Sarah spent more nights at Marcus's apartment than her own. They cooked simple meals together, watched old movies on a donated television, and talked for hours about their hopes for the future. Marcus still struggled with nightmares sometimes, but Sarah's presence helped calm his racing mind. Work at the police station continued, expanding Marcus's role in the community. He started visiting schools to talk about kindness and not judging people by their appearance. Children listened with wide eyes as he explained how Bruno had been his best friend during the hardest times. Teachers reported that students treated homeless people with more respect after Marcus's visits. One evening, as they walked along the Willamette River with Bruno chasing ducks, Sarah asked Marcus what he wanted most. He stopped walking and looked at her seriously. "I want to keep helping people," he said, "and I want to do it with you beside me." Sarah felt her heart flutter with joy and possibility. They weren't officially engaged or even living together full-time, but their commitment felt deeper than any ceremony could make it. They'd both been broken by life in different ways and found healing through caring for each other. Bruno had brought them together, and now they were building something neither had thought possible. As autumn settled over Portland, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey from forgotten man to valued community member. He'd learned that redemption wasn't about erasing the past, but about using painful experiences to help others avoid similar suffering. Sarah had shown him that love could grow even in the most unlikely circumstances. Their story became legendary among Portland police officers as proof that heroism comes in unexpected forms. Marcus never forgot the night he'd first warned Sarah about danger, just as she never forgot that sometimes the people society dismisses most are the ones with the most to offer.